What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Combat Corporation, your source of combat sports. I'm your host, Al the Postmaster Morrow, and welcome back to a new installment of Combat Topics. Now, this is something that I've done a couple times, but I really want to start doing a little bit more, maybe one or two of these a week. That way we can add some new content to the channel. I know over the last couple videos I've said I wanted to do more to the channel, and this is one of them, and especially because I love combat sports. It's my whole life, and I want to talk about it a little bit more, share my opinion with all you guys, and get your ideas too, so maybe I can learn some new things and maybe see things from a new perspective. And I really want to open the floor for conversation here, especially when it comes to UFC 309 this last weekend. There were some really great fights, regardless of what some people think about the main event between Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic. As a heavyweight mixed martial artist myself, I thought it was a really cool, nostalgic fight. There are some opinions on how I feel about Stipe and all those other things. All I can say is thank you, Stipe, for such an awesome career and inspiring so many people just like me to keep going and hopefully get better or even get to that point one day in time. You know, I can only pray, to be that good, but we'll see. Who knows? Still got a while till my knees healed. But that's besides the point. By the topic of the video today, you can see what we're talking about, and I'm going to talk about maybe some of the problems that Bo Nickal might see in the next couple fights or over the next couple weeks to months before people kind of forget about it and want to look at his next fight, right? For one, Bo Nickal fought Madison Square Garden, UFC 309 against Paul Craig, a very established guy in the light heavyweight and middleweight divisions, and I thought he did a good job of winning the fight. But there are just some things that people are not liking about Bo Nickal right now, and a lot of it has to do with his kind of attitude after the fight. Now, before I go into that, I just want to say, I know what some people might think if I talk about it. It's different when you have guys like Daniel Cormier, Chael Sonnen, Joe Rogan, and all those guys, John Anik, all the commentators, the people that were at a very high level in the sport, especially Daniel Cormier, Chael Sonnen, that have talked about him and stuff like that. And then you have me, who I'm a 3-1 pro, heavyweight with a bum knee right now that never accomplished anything Bo Nickal's accomplished, stuff like that. But there are several fighters that didn't accomplish what Bo Nickal accomplished that will probably have the same opinion as me and different coaches and stuff out there. But I just want to not even I'll share my opinion on some things, but I kind of want to just talk about step by step what I think maybe Bo could do different at the end of the day that might help him, especially when it comes to the fans' eyes, if he does care about that. Now, I'm not saying that the fans dictate what you do in your career. You should never just listen to what the fans say every day. But here are some of the things I think he's going to run into. For one, listening to his interview with Ariel Helwani yesterday, there were just some things I'm like, okay, there's a wrestler. I don't know how else to say that. I competed in virtually every combat sport that you can think of. I've had over 70 amateur boxing matches. I've competed in college wrestling and high school wrestling with over 200 wrestling matches at this point in my life, plus over 100 jiu-jitsu matches and all these other things. Kickboxing, Muay Thai, all those fun things. I've been in it since I was 12 years old. And I've seen people just like Bo Nickal. The only difference is Bo Nickal has accomplished all those things. And what I will say is, when I have met a lot of high-level grapplers, and I find that a lot more in grappling arts, although you see it in boxing too. You can talk about guys like Floyd Mayweather or Tank Davis a little bit, Devin Haney. You could even talk about, unfortunately, Jake Paul, are very braggadocious people. But I notice a lot of people in grappling arts that are at that high level, they believe they are untouchable. And that's just how it goes. And for me, Bo has that idea of, and hell, his accomplishments are great. 3 national championships for Division I wrestling out of Penn State. Could have easily qualified for the Olympics if he kept training, in my opinion. 2-time Haas Trophy winner, which I don't think has been done before. I think he's the first to ever do that. I could be wrong. But basically, and he was a finisher in college, so he pinned, I want to say over 80% of his matches, which is incredible. That's a big stat. I want to say the all-time pin record is still Gene Mills out of Syracuse, New York, which is funny. That's only about an hour from me. Could be Ben Askren, but I want to say it's Gene Mills. Wade Chalice, I think, was the first one to hold that. But Bo Nickal, I'm pretty sure, is in the top 5 or 6, maybe at least the top 10 of all-time pins. And we're so used to seeing him be so dominant and such an imposing force. And so when he wins a fight basically by coasting like he did this last weekend, everyone was kind of like, well, what the hell, dude? And I think that's for him in his mind, because he's such a dominant athlete. He thought he dominated that fight. Now, me as a more MMA guy myself, I love wrestling and I love watching wrestling. But here's to you that come from wrestling how I would equate his win. He got his 2, or in this case 3 now, they do 3. He got his 3, and accumulated riding time. That's all it was. And that's a win, right? There's nothing wrong with that. You got your team points. You got the win. That's all that matters at the end of the day. But we could have used more. Maybe we were down a bit in our duel here, and we needed to get the 6. We needed the 5 or the 4. I needed a major. I needed a tech. I needed a pin. Whatever it was. And that's not what he delivered. And so naturally, we're all like, well, dude, it wasn't dominant because you didn't finish the guy, right? And that's, I think, how a lot of people saw it. Or you didn't dominate in the way that you think you did. Now, here's what I saw. Bo Nickal wanted to go out there and prove to the whole world that, hey, I'm not just Bo Nickal the wrestler, I can strike too. But then we have to sit there and remember this, guys, for ego's sake. And a lot of wrestlers and jiu-jitsu players and grapplers have a really inflated ego, in my opinion. A guy like Gordon Ryan, although you got to beat him to prove him wrong, but he will flat out look at you and say, well, I'm the greatest guy to ever do this, and that's just a fact. Everyone else sucks compared to me, and he says that all the time. But hey, one of my biggest idols is Muhammad Ali, and I am the greatest, and things like that. John Jones considers himself the greatest of all time. So that ego is there in combat sports in general, especially when it's a singular sport. But at the end of the day, Bo Nickal, it is mixed martial arts. It is not just boxing. It's not just wrestling. He could have very easily, in my opinion, shown that he was the better MMA fighter than Paul Craig. Because for me, Paul Craig went into that fight saying, I hope he takes me down. And I think he was banking off it. And I think that's a horrendous idea, right? You don't bank off something that happened in a cage. It's because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen, tomorrow, the day after, things like that. Not everything can be just like, okay, yep, that's going to happen. No. Sometimes you have tells from certain people, but in this case with Paul Craig, he was banking on Bo Nickal's going to take me down, and I'll just get a triangle. No, that's not what happened. So Bo Nickal outstruck a guy, and Paul Craig, had he prepared to be a better striker, probably could have beat Bo. Because realistically, Bo, for me, all he did was level change, overhand, level change, big looping hook. I didn't see jabs. I didn't see straights. I didn't see anything like that. And for me, that's what would have impressed me if he struck on the feet. Maybe going for low kicks. Because guess what? Paul Craig's not going to take you down. And if he does, you're going to tell me he's going to hold you there? No way. Not Bo Nickal. I'm sorry. That's where you're going to see Bo Nickal shine, as if he's in dangerous spots like that. I can't say too many people in college wrestling that really took Bo down and just held him there for a whole amount of time. Right? I think Jaden Cox beat him in the Olympic trials and stuff, but I still don't think Jaden held it. Well, obviously freestyle is completely different, but still took him down. But I think Bo was still strangling to get back up, or even got his point to get back up. That's kind of crazy. So at the end of the day, Bo could have kicked, because guess what? You catch it, you take him down, Bo's getting right back up. Paul Craig's not going to out-wrestle him. Paul Craig's just pure jiu-jitsu guy. They're not going to try and get riding time or top pressure like that in a lot of ways. Some of them do, and they're very good at it, but again, more of them have that heavy, more wrestling-based jiu-jitsu style, or a catch wrestling style, things like that. And here's the other part of me. I think Bo, if you wanted to make a statement of hey, I'm that good at this, I'm so much better than you at wrestling that your jiu-jitsu is going to be useless, take him down and pin him if you're really that good. And here's the thing. I don't care what people say. Go back and watch Dan Severn versus Hoist Gracie and watch that entire fight. Dan Severn, and granted, there was a huge size discrepancy there, and Paul Craig is bigger than Bo Nickal. But pinned him the whole time. Mark Coleman pinned guys the whole time. Kevin Randleman pinned guys the whole time, right? And I mean, Kevin Randleman lost to Bas Rutten, but still, I'm a big fan of Bas Rutten. But at the end of the day, Kevin Randleman pinned him, beat him up, things like that. I think Bo Nickal, his wrestling is so good, and since he had that, top 10 pinning in NCAA history, you probably could have taken him down, pinned him, beat him up. Hey, you're in danger, Bo? Stand back up, because you're controlling the distance up there too. And here's the thing. Paul Craig was like, oh, he hasn't shot yet, so I guess I have to strike. He doesn't want to do that. So if I'm Bo Nickal, I'm going after Paul Craig. I'm not just throwing overhands and things like that. One big shot against guys like Paul Craig that are much taller than you and bigger are never really the goal for you. In my opinion, I feel like Bo really should have utilized his jab and his straight a lot more, and I think that would have helped him a lot more too. Had he done that, I think he could have I really think he could have established the range. I think he really could have established more punches, because the jab is your friend. If you're able to land your jab, you're really able to land whatever it is that you want to land. And I think by mixing up his arsenal, that would have been a lot of success for him on the feet. And I still, again, think he could have out wrestled him and been fine. I know why put your hand in a spike trap. At the end of the day, I still think Bo was that much better than him. The other thing I'm going to say is the dominant thing. Again, what Bo did to me, for wrestlers that may not understand, is he basically took him down, got his 3, and rode out the match, right? And that was it. You cannot go in and say that I had a dominant performance, right? He had a couple moments where it definitely looks like he shook Paul Craig up with a few overhands, but the activity just wasn't there. And then he said to Ariel Helwani on the show yesterday, well, I had a flawless performance. It really couldn't have been that flawless, regardless of how you feel about it, if judges saw that you lost at least one round. There were a few 29-28s there, right? So that's what if it was 30-27 across the board, meaning that you won all 3 rounds, then yes, okay, you had a one-sided performance in a lot of ways. But some judges thought you lost. And then he said something kind of, for me, that was uneducated in that, we're counting blocked, he kicked my arms. Blocked kicks don't count as defense anymore? No. In a lot of ways, they don't. At least what we're told in a lot of different judging scenarios is, hey, someone's being active. We need activity. You haven't done anything. You got kicked. Yeah, you blocked it on your arm, but what if you stop throwing in, and this is what judges have said to us before, right? When in the rules meeting and stuff. My last rules meeting for LFA, this was literally covered by Todd Anderson, regardless of how you feel about that guy as a ref. But Todd Anderson said flat out, if you get kicked in the leg and you switch stances, we might look at that different, like it hurt your leg. Or if you get kicked in your arm and you no longer throw your jab, we're assuming your arm's hurt. Those are things that are being taken into consideration by judges, by referees. That's just the honest to God truth. That was what was said to me alone in the back of an MMA fight for LFA, which is a big regional promotion. Developmental promotion for the UFC, right? And that was Todd Anderson, a guy that's really around. Keith Peterson was there as well at the time. A lot of big names, Dan Mergliata, and it was basically agreed upon by every single person in the back. Hey, you kick my arm and I don't throw my left hand anymore. I have to judge it that hurt you. Things like that. So that for me was a bit of an uneducated call, like, oh, we're counting block kicks. It wasn't really blocked to someone's eyes, right? It wasn't blocked to my eyes. It was, ow. Bas Rutten used to kick people's arms as hard as he could. And granted, he had the big shin pads and pancreas and stuff, but you can break someone's arm very easily. I'm pretty sure John Jones actually broke OSP's arm blocking kicks like that, right? That's why we check things, why we check our whole side and stuff like that, to try and make sure that does not happen. So that, for me, was a bit uneducated. Then his other thing was he thought the commentary was biased and he didn't agree with all of it. Which, listen, if my feelings got hurt too, I wouldn't want to agree with anyone. But at the end of the day, he said something that really stuck out to me, and that was, well, the people I know and that I trust are telling me I did a great job. Of course they're going to. And you did. You did a good job, right? You won in the UFC against a guy that was ranked in the top 15 and 10, I believe, at one point at light heavyweight. Has wins over, 2 guys, one that was a champion, one that's going to fight for a belt, and Magomed Ankalaev and Jamal Hill, right? And that's huge. So you got big wins there. But at the end of the day, you didn't do enough to really get over with most of the people. There's a reason why the crowd was in an uproar, and I don't care what anyone says. The crowd starts booing and stuff like that. In most cases, something just didn't go right. Okay, so not every fan on the planet is a filthy casual, as we'd all say, and not every fan on the planet is uneducated, right? Now, I for one wasn't bored by the fight. I was more like I just wanted a little bit more from the guy. I wanted, again, use your jab more, kick his legs out, fake some takedowns, do something. Don't stand and prove that you're a striker, because you're not. You're a mixed martial artist at the end of the day, right? Even Alex Pereira will fake every now. I don't care what people say. His level changes to give you an idea. Hey, there's a shot. Things like that. Let me give you something to look at. That's the idea. Okay, that's my opinion. But when you have your guys telling you did a great job, you did. Okay, and there's a lot of reasons why you did a good job. But at the end of the day, those guys are out for your best interest. Right? If I had a performance like that, my coach for the first couple days would look at me and say, oh man, great job. We got to win. Live at Madison Square Garden. Oh my God, we did so good. Wow, wow, wow. Then we take that week off and go back into training that next Monday, and that's where I get ripped apart. It happens all the time. He goes like, yeah, well, here's what sucked. I've had my coach tell me that all the time, right? This is exactly how it worked for me, and this is why I love him, because he's so honest with me. Is because when I hurt my knee, right, he thought it was because I got teeped and I put my knee backwards, and that's why it blew out, right? And so the whole time that next week I went just to hang out at the gym. Guess what he covered the whole day, because that's what he thought it was. Teep defense the whole time. He's like, well, we were in the greatest spot of his career, and he blew it because he didn't block a teep correctly. So all my teammates, I got to sit there and watch for 2 hours, just practice teep defense, just to get it in my brain. Or the last time I won and I didn't, and I knocked my guy out and I didn't finish a double leg the correct way. The whole time he's like, oh, that knockout was great. Oh, that knockout was great for a whole week. But I knew going back that next Monday, my coach was going to say, by the way, double leg attempts sucked. Guess what we're doing for the whole week? Double leg attempts, right? You missed it, whatever it might be. Things along those lines is basically what I think Bo's going to find, especially when you have guys like Mike Brown from American Top Team in a big gym like that. They're going to tell you these things for the first week. Enjoy your victory. You need to enjoy your victory. If you don't, then what's the point of doing it? I used to be so hard on myself all the time, whereas I'd win anything, whether it be a wrestling match or whether it be boxing or whether it be MMA, and I'd be like, well, on to the next. No, you got to enjoy your victory. Let Bo enjoy his victory, and I'm going to let him enjoy his victory. But I will say this, do not be shocked, especially with a guy like Cael Sanderson, one of the best wrestlers to ever do it. It would definitely, as a coach, probably that day after the match, look at him and say, hey, here's what we need to improve on. We could have used those points in that duel. Whatever it could have been. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking with Bo Nickal. So I'm definitely saying that his ego's a bit inflated at the moment because he's so used to being such a dominant athlete, and to not hear, Bo, you're the best. Bo, oh my God, you destroyed that guy. Bo, wow. Things like that. That's a first for him. Really, in a lot of ways, that's kind of like a first for him in this setting. He's destroyed everyone else. But I agree with Daniel Cormier. This was a big step up from Cody Brundage or I can't even remember the Jeremy Pickett. I can't remember the other fella that he fought. But at the end of the day, it was a big step up in competition, and I do agree. And I throw this out there. He's not ready for the top 5. He's just not. Even Israel Adesanya, you stop a takedown from Bo, then what? I mean, you think Israel Adesanya is going to do what Paul Craig did and just sit there? I don't know. He might. But let's talk about Robert Whittaker. Khamzat Chimaev right now is just like, oh man, well, Bo's such a better wrestler. Cool, put them on a wrestling mat. I give Bo Nickal all day. Take my money, right? MMA, I think Khamzat Chimaev smokes Bo Nickal right now. I just do. And I think it's more of an experience thing. Now, Bo's accomplished a lot in 4 years, but it's an experience thing. Khamzat's been doing this a lot longer than him, all right? I think the best guy to give him, I don't even want him to give anyone in the top 15. I guess you could say Michelle Pereira might do it. I think a guy like Anthony Hernandez would probably beat Bo. Jack Hermanson could be a name that you could give him, but I think Hermanson would probably tap him out if he got on the mat, or I think Hermanson would at least be a little bit more active on the feet. Joe Pyfer. Give Bo Nickal Joe Pyfer. You want to see a really big up-and-coming, hey, here's the proving point, you two, it's time. Bo Nickal, Joe Pyfer, that's the fight I would give. Because you're going to have a guy like Joe Pyfer who is big and strong as a middleweight. He's a big boy for a middleweight. Can he stop Bo Nickal's takedowns? Can he negate Bo Nickal's striking? Can he stop Bo Nickal's onslaught? And then Bo Nickal, can you take a shot from Joe Pyfer, who's one of the hardest punchers at middleweight? Can you take that punch? Can you go in there and outstrike this man? Can you take him down? Can you do what Bo Nickal does against Joe Pyfer, who's another one of those guys that Dana White loves, and another guy who could very easily be a big star down the line, right? To me, that's a big fight you make. Now, I love Joe Nickal, Joe Pyfer, and Bo Pyfer. That's what we're going to go with. I love Bo Nickal and Joe Pyfer. That's the fight I want. They're both unranked at the moment. Joe Pyfer got tested by Jack Hermanson. I don't think Bo Nickal's quite there yet. I think you go that route. Bo Nickal, Joe Pyfer. Whoever comes out of that evolved from their last fights. I want to say it was Joe Pyfer just beat, I know he lost to Hermanson, then he beat Marcos Barrial. I believe it was Mark Barrial. I think he knocked out, right? I could be wrong. Someone fact check me if that's not right. But I know that was a bit of a long topic, guys. It's just my opinion on Bo Nickal right now. I think he's great. I think he'd be even better. But at the end of the day, there are just some things that I think he needs to stop. He needs to smell the roses a bit. Enjoy that victory, but look at your performance. I would not call it dominant. I wouldn't say it was flawless either, because there are judges that thought you lost, and judges get it wrong all the time. But hey, at the end of the day, maybe they saw something that you didn't, and you need to be a little bit more open to that. But that's my opinion at the end of the day. That's the combat topic of the day. If you have any other topics that you want me to cover, put it in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about this, and if I got any part of this wrong or right, open a discussion in the comments. I really want you guys to kind of give me some more ideas to go off, because maybe I'm approaching this in a completely wrong way, and I want to know more. But in my opinion right now, at this point in time, Bo Nickal's great, but he could be a lot better. Okay? So with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching Your Source of Combat Sports, the Combat Corporation, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day, everybody.